Hello and welcome to Roots to Sprouts. In this video, we are going to discuss about a Japanese composting method called Bokashi. For this setup, I used two 5-gallon containers, a lid, Bokashi grain, tap and kitchen waste. The total expense for this setup is around $35. Let's see how to set up this compost bin. What you're seeing here, it's a food graded BPA free storage bucket. When I ordered these buckets, it came with this lid. But these lids looked more like a long-term storage lid. Every time when I tried to open and close this lid, it wasn't easy. I think it served for a different purpose because for me in this compost bin, I need to open and close frequently in order to add the food waste on a regular interval. So I started for looking for a different lid that meets my purpose. So there was a lid called Gamma 2 lid, and it can fit the bucket sizes between 3 to 7 gallon buckets. This lid consists of two pieces. The first piece, which is the top portion of the lid, it has a screw type. So you can screw and unscrew it to open and close the lid. The second piece is the base that can be fixed to the bucket with an airtight sealant in it. As I am showing in this picture, you have to press on all the sides or you can hammer it lightly in order to fix the base to the bucket. Once you are done, just make sure the base is fully sealed and it is airtight because that's the most important thing in the Bokashi compost bin. Then you can take the another piece of the lid, which is the screw type, in order to seal the bucket. The reason why we need to make sure that this container is airtight, it helps the food matters inside that container to get fermented. Fermentation is one of the most important steps in the Bokashi composting process. The next step is to drill tiny holes at the bottom of this bucket. These holes helps to drain the fluid from the food waste in the bucket. You can get these buckets from a nearby Home Depot, Lowe's or any hardware stores, but I prefer to get something which is food graded. So now we have bucket 1 with drilled holes in it, and let's take the bucket 2 where there are no holes. So this is where the liquid substance from bucket 1 will be stored as the fermentation takes place on the bucket 1. You can see the space between the first bucket and the second bucket, almost 4 to 5 inches at the bottom where the liquid substance can be stored. And I think you can see the shadow there. Yes, exactly. So that's the place where you have that much amount of liquid that will allow you to store, and we don't keep it that long. You will take it once in 3 days, the liquid substance, and you can dilute and you can apply it to your garden. The longer you keep this liquid substance in the base bucket, it will produce a very strong fermented smell. So it is better to apply this liquid as a fertilizer to your plants even on a daily basis. So in the last step of setting up this compost bucket, it's adding the tap. The purpose of adding this tap is to extract the liquid as needed to the desired amount. And adding this tap is a very simple process. You just need to drill a hole to the size of the tap and insert one end with the washer. On the other end, you have the screw that to tight the lever that they gave with the washer, and that's it. It's a very simple process. The good thing with this particular tap I purchased, you can rotate it so that you can keep it at a flat surface, not on the tabletop. And whenever you need, you can keep it on a tabletop and you can pull it down, or you can turn it down to get the liquid substance. Along with the food waste, another important thing that you need to add into your Bokashi compost is Bokashi bran. The purpose of the bran is to inoculate the food waste with microorganisms to help them ferment. This is one of the base ingredient in Bokashi composting. The one you are seeing now is purchased from the store, but we can also make this Bokashi bran at home. We will make another video how to make this Bokashi bran. So with that, you have seen what we need to set up the Bokashi compost bin. And as you see in this picture, you have a container with the airtight lid, and there is a food scraps that is stored in the first bucket, and anything as a liquid substance that's going to come, that will be stored in the bottom container, and that can be extracted with help of the tap. Before we get into how to make this Bokashi compost, let's spend few minutes to know what is this Bokashi and why it is so different from the traditional compost method. Bokashi is a process that converts food waste and similar organic matters into a soil amendment, which adds more nutrients and improves soil textures. Bokashi composting is an alternative method that uses anaerobic bacteria that works hard in the absence of oxygen. Bokashi is very different from the traditional composting system. You don't need to turn in, number one, and there is no ratio monitoring. Number two, you can use anything from the kitchen scrap. Yes, you heard me right. Anything. It can be meat, dairy, vegetables, peels, oil, anything can go into this Bokashi. And the last one, it can be indoor. You don't need to keep it outdoor, and it doesn't smell indoor if you do it in the right way. Now let's see how to make Bokashi. So this is bucket number 1, which has drilled holes in it. Sprinkle handful of Bokashi bran on the base of bucket 1 where you have holes, and then start putting the first layer of kitchen waste. So as I said, it can be anything. There is no restrictions in this Bokashi composting method. After you apply the first layer, sprinkle the Bokashi bran on top of it. After that, add the second layer on top of that. So this is a repeat process that the more you add, make it as a layer, and then between each layer try to sprinkle the Bokashi bran so that it kicks in the fermentation process. The amount of waste we get from our kitchen, the bucket can be easily reach the desired level within few days. Each time after adding the food waste into the compost bucket, you have to make sure that you make the food matters in the bucket more tightly packed, so that there is no air gaps in between the materials, so that the process works really well in an airtight environment. So now after you press it hard and make it tight with no air gaps in the food matters, place the first bucket on top of the second bucket as I explained earlier, so that any liquid substance that's coming from this bucket, from the food waste, that can be collected in the lower bucket. And you don't need to open and see every time whether the liquid has been collected or not. Leave it a couple of days, and then when you're adding the food waste next time, you will obviously see the liquids being stored on the lower bucket. After a few days, when I went to add some more food waste into the container, I did notice a mold formation that tells the fermentation process started working very well. So repeat the same step as I said, like by adding more before and after, or in between adding these food matters. Apply handful of grain on the top and then add these food waste into it. And every time after you add the food waste, don't forget to give a light press on the food waste so that there is no air gap in between the food matters. In a traditional compost, a high temperature is required in order to break down the particles or any food materials or anything that you add into the compost. But in Bokashi, this is done by fermentation and the acidity. Bokashi is as long as it is kept airtight sealed bucket and it is stored for few weeks, you will get a very good result. And since it's been few days, I've been adding the food waste into the top bucket. I'm sure there is some amount of Bokashi liquid is collected in the lower bucket. Let's see how it looks now. So this is the Bokashi liquid that get dripped from the top bucket. As we mentioned earlier, the food waste, once it gets fermented and it drains the fluid from the top bucket to the lower bucket. This Bokashi liquid is a very good fertilizer for the plant when it is applied in a diluted manner. Later in this video, I will show you how to apply that. As we are prepping our garden for the fall season to get some fall gardening going, we have to clean some of our existing beds. So what we did, we cut down all the okra plants and we started prepping that particular bed so that we can add the decomposed materials of the Bokashi into this bed and get this bed ready for the fall garden. So what you're seeing now, these are the roots of the okra plants that I had, like 12 plants in this 4x4 bed, and every plant gave me a very good yield, and we need to start planning the fall. We have to take down these plants. This year we are adding only Bokashi as a compost to this particular bed as we amend the soil. We did saw a lot of grubs, so as I always tell you, whenever you are amending your existing bed, you will see these beetles, the baby version of the beetle which is called grubs. Try to take them out, otherwise these will kill your roots and it will damage your plants in a long way. So take care of these grubs as you are amending your soil in the existing bed. So as I said, this year we are not planning to put any other compost in this particular bed other than Bokashi. So we want to see how Bokashi gives a yield to this particular bed what we are planning to put this fall season. So in the midway of this bed, I am making a partition so that little deeper in the soil, I am giving some room for the Bokashi to be laid, and then I will cover the Bokashi with this soil. The very first thing what we did when we started converting our backyard into a garden, we amended the ground soil itself, because in Texas we have a rich clay soil. So we removed 6 to 12 inches of clay soil and we amended that with a blend of compost and a garden soil. And then on top of that, these raised beds with a rich nutrition and compost helps the plants to grow really well. So okay, it's been 2 weeks, little over 2 weeks now. Let's take a look how the Bokashi compost turned into. Let's take a look how the compost looks. Wow, look at this, is what exactly we need. Look at the fermentation and the mold that formed on top of this Bokashi. This is a rich material that you need as part of the Bokashi compost that will have lot of microorganisms in the soil once you apply this fertilizer, this compost into the bed. So we had a successful compost with microorganism from the Bokashi, which we are going to apply to this bed now. See that this trellis is very much active on the same bed on the one side where I have this cantaloupes growing, and I don't want to take it down like what I did for the okra because it's still producing the fruits for me. So I left it without any disturbance on the other side of the bed, but I'm applying this rich compost with lot of microbes and the ferment material in the compost into the middle of the bed, and I'm going to cover it. And most of the kitchen waste what you're seeing in this compost, it's all from our garden. For example, the corns what you see there, it's all from our garden what we harvested this season. All the middle part of the corn, that the stack what we collected, we stored it and we put it in the compost so that you can use it for this kind of composting process. In this bed this year, I'm just adding the Bokashi compost as a fertilizer. As it decomposed in the soil, it's going to have more microbes and nutrients in the soil, and I'm planning to just top up some raised bed soil to this bed. Bokashi liquid is nothing but a microbe solution. It is made from all the natural beneficial microbes that is extracted from the fermented food waste. Bokashi liquid is a fantastic fertilizer for your garden. It has a rich nutrients and beneficial microorganism. It is used as a soil conditioner in the garden, and you can apply it to your garden beds, container plants, to your pots, and even to your lawn. It's a very good fertilizer to your garden. The applying ratio of this Bokashi liquid is 1:100. That means a 1 portion of Bokashi liquid should be mixed with 100 portion of water. This is the third or fourth time we are applying this liquid, and I want to show you how it resulted to some of our plants. What you're seeing now, this is the ash god, and this is the third time I think we are applying the fertilizer in this season, and we did see a very good result with ash god in our garden. Try this method and let us know how it turned. As I said, this is one of the easy and simple home compost method that you can do with very less expense and with all the kitchen waste that you're getting from your kitchen every day, and it gives a very good result. I hope you like this video and it is informative in some way. Thanks for all your support and feedback and supporting our channel. Bye.